Hi everyone, welcome to week 5. I hope that you all enjoyed your weekend. Sunday was chilly. I think we're going to have a couple few cool days this week, which is I'm very excited about. This week we're going to study chapter 10. And by the way, let me just tell you what we're going to basically do this week, next week, and the following week after Thanksgiving. And then I will talk a little bit about chapter 10. So this week we're going to cover chapter 10. Next week we're going to study chapter 12. And of course, I know that it's Thanksgiving week, but we cannot basically do nothing next week because it's a 8 weeks class, and we still have 3 more chapters, 10, 12, and 13 to cover. So we do have something to do and basically study next week. And I understand that you want to stay at home, or I don't know, spend time with your family and friends for Thanksgiving, but we do have 1 chapter to study. So I would suggest that you finish everything in terms of homework and everything before Thursday. So then you have enough time to basically celebrate Thanksgiving, okay? And when we come back from Thanksgiving, we will study chapter 13, and that will be our last chapter. And at the end of that week, you're going to take the final exam. And just like the midterm exam, you will have few days, of course, to complete the test. And let me just check my notes. I think for final will um, your final, if I can find it here. Of course, you can always check the syllabus for all the dates and everything. Okay, the final will be available to you um, on December 4th, and it will be closed on December 8th. So hopefully I read it correctly. Yes, December 4th to December 8th. All right. So that's kind of the that's basically what we're going to do um, this week, next week, and the last week of our class. Okay. Your term paper is also due right after Thanksgiving, which will be November 30th, I believe. Yes, Monday right after Thanksgiving. So again, I would suggest to finish up everything before that weekend, that Thanksgiving weekend. You have this week, and also you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. So finish up everything, then you can enjoy your Thanksgiving break. All right. By the way, I will, of course, send you another email on Monday next week, Monday of Thanksgiving week, because as I said, we will have another chapter, chapter 12, to study that week. But let me just remind you that that weekend of Thanksgiving weekend, holiday weekend, if you want to reach out to me, make sure that you send your emails to my Lone Star email, because I might have some delay because it's a school holiday. So I might have some delay checking my D2L email, but I'm pretty fast at responding to my Lone Star email because I have it on my phone. Okay, so just in case that you need me, because I know that it's also the term paper deadline that weekend. So just in case you want to need me, definitely send your emails to my Lone Star email. Okay, I try also to remind you again next week. My weekly email. All right. So for this week, as I said, we're going to study chapter 10. So let me know if you have any question from chapter 9, because I also told you guys last week that chapter 9 is very, very important in terms of the graphs and the concepts that we discussed, short run cost, short run production, and we're going to use them again in chapter 10, 12, and 13. At the beginning of chapter 10, we're going to look at the overview and the characteristics of 4 important markets we have in microeconomics. They are perfect competition. We also have perfect competition in chapter 3 when we talked about demand and supply. We will talk about monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and monopoly. We're going to learn about profit maximization for firms in perfect competition and monopoly in detail in chapter 10 and chapter 12. In chapter 13, we will talk about monopolistic competition and oligopoly one more time, but very, very briefly. And you will see that I'm going to keep chapter 13 very short. Because if you are an econ major, you will learn more about them, but it is not really part of what you are supposed to learn in this principle of microeconomics. Okay, that's why I'm keeping it short. If you are an econ major, you will learn more, for instance, about oligopoly in game theory, which is a separate course. Okay, so we're not going to spend that much time talking about profit maximization in oligopoly and monopolistic competition in chapter 13, but we will talk about profit maximization in perfect competition market and monopoly. Okay, so definitely pay attention to that little table. It's also on the textbook, and I also copied it in the lecture notes talking about the characteristics of these four markets. Note the examples for each market. For instance, in perfect competition, which is the topic of this chapter, remember that the most of the agricultural products, they belong to this market. Okay, or for instance, we have all the clothing, shoes, anything that is related to branding is in monopolistic competition. So pay attention to the characteristics of these markets and pay attention to the examples that we have for each market. Then we will talk about how firms and businesses who are price takers, they have to accept the price in the market. We also, something that we also discuss in chapter 3, can maximize their profit. Okay, so basically businesses in this market cannot influence the price at all. So in this market, we're not looking for the price. Okay, price is always given to you, and you will see that the price in this market is the same as marginal revenue. Remember, we also had marginal utility in chapter 7, marginal product. So hopefully you are now familiar with this concept of marginal. Marginal, again, I'm going to remind you, it means extra, additional. So marginal revenue is the extra revenue that a firm can basically get by selling or producing one more unit of output. Okay, and you will see in this market, the price is the same as marginal revenue, okay? And also the same thing as average revenue, or revenue per unit of output, okay? You will see in this market that one firm in this market, the demand for one firm in this market is different from market demand. The market demand has a typical shape like chapter 3, it's downward slope. But since our firms in this market are price takers, so the shape of the demand for one firm is horizontal, is perfectly elastic. Remember, we talked about elasticity in chapter 6. So one firm's demand is perfectly elastic. So pay attention to that. So the market demand is different from one firm's demand. All right, something that you need to remember. Then the only thing basically we're trying to figure out in this market, which is very, very important to businesses, is quantity, how much we should produce. We do not have any control over the price because we are price takers. All the businesses are price takers. They have to get the price, and they have to accept, basically, I should say, the price in the market. But we should be very, very careful with how much we produce in the short run. So the key to survive in this market in short run is to produce the right amount of output. And the whole thing of this profit maximization that we're going to argue and discuss in this chapter is to lead us to that right amount of output that we should produce. Okay, so we're looking for how much output we should produce, or firms should produce, in perfect competition market. Okay, because again, they cannot change the price in the market. Price is given. We can find, as you will see in the notes and also videos that I posted, we can find this optimal quantity using two different approaches that will give you the same answer. Okay, the first one is called total revenue and total cost approach. It's easy. You basically calculate your revenue, your total revenue, which is your price times your quantity. You calculate your total cost. We had total cost in chapter 9, so definitely go back if you don't remember total cost. That's your fixed cost plus your variable cost. Okay, so profit is total revenue minus total cost. Okay, so you calculate your total revenue minus total cost. You find your highest profit, your maximum profit. From that maximum profit, you can find your optimal Q. So that's one way of finding that quantity you should produce in the short run. Another way of finding the optimal quantity is to use marginal revenue and marginal cost. You calculate your extra revenue, you calculate your extra cost of producing one more unit of output. Whenever they are equal or very close, your profit is maximum and your quantity is also optimal. That's the amount of quantity that you should produce. I want you guys to pay attention to the diagrams we have, the graphs we have for both total revenue, total cost approach and marginal revenue, marginal cost approach. We are using basically all those graphs we had in chapter 9. And for instance, for total revenue, total cost approach, we bring the total cost shape that we had in chapter 9. We're not bringing total fixed cost, total variable cost, but we are actually bringing total cost from chapter 9, and we put it together with total revenue, which is an increasing function, okay, when we discuss, and we try to find profit on the graph. So review all the graphs we had in chapter 9. They were very, very important. If you don't remember the shape of, for instance, total cost or marginal cost, we had both of them in chapter 9. And pay attention to the formulas we have in chapter 10 in this chapter, as well as again graphs. You should be able to find profit using formulas. You should be able to find profit also from the graph, okay? So pay attention to those, all right? So I cannot emphasize enough how important chapters 9 and 10 are, and you will get lots of questions from them on the final. So study hard, try to understand everything. Reach out to me if you have any question in terms of the concept. I put everything, of course, in my notes, so you have everything, and I also try to record some videos for you on these graphs and kind of go step by step. Definitely review the video that I made for you from chapter 9, how we draw production, different cost, average cost, okay? I'm also working on a video, kind of like a review for the final, and I try actually to post it by the end of this week, so you have it before you finish up chapter 12 and chapter 13, so you can also start reviewing everything, because remember that the final exam is cumulative, so you have to start reviewing from chapter 1, okay? So let me know if you have any question. Definitely keep working on your papers, and as I suggested, try to finish up everything before Thanksgiving, because I understand that next week you'll be busy with other stuff, so try to stay focused. We're almost there. All right, have a great rest of the week and take care. I'll see you soon.